And joining us on the line now, as he does on most Mondays when we're lucky, is Joe DiGenova, legal analyst. Good morning to you, Joe.
Good morning.
All right, so listen, I've been dying to get your take on this. We have learned over the course of the last week since we talked to you the last time that the Baltimore State's attorney, Marilyn Mosby, has decided that she wants to block the release of Freddie Gray's autopsy. I can't imagine any reason why she would want to do this that makes any sense to me. But I know because you're a legal analyst and you're much smarter than me in many regards, you can probably figure this out for me. Why would she be against putting out something that would be very much in the public's interest to know?
She says she's seeking a protective order for the autopsy and other quote-unquote sensitive documents, which means evidence against the police officers that may be helpful to them as well. Because she is afraid that further publicity, which she started with her horrendous news conferences, will prejudice a fair and impartial jury. This is up to the judge in the case who has been temporarily assigned this case, along with the motion for a change of venue outside of Baltimore. I think she will lose this motion because there is no basis to do so under the circumstances. Moreover, one of the horrible things about this, she's refusing to share the autopsy report with the police department, if you can believe this. Now, where's the commissioner? Commissioner Blatt, whatever his name is. When you think about this, 50 years of uninterrupted Democratic rule, 3 black public officials, the mayor, the state's attorney, and the police commissioner. And what are they doing? They're keeping information from the public. This is so outrageous. Coupled with her performance at her various news conferences and her appearance on idiotic television shows, the state attorney, Marilyn Mosby, is giving a seminar on how to get yourself thrown out of office by a court or by an ethics committee. This is one of the most mindless performances by a public official I have ever seen. I mean, this is cynicism at its worst.
Can you project any ideas as to why she might want to? What's so sensitive about the autopsy report?
I think what's going to show, because the autopsy may show a different cause of death, that he may have had a congenital neck disease. He may have had a heart problem that nobody knew about. She doesn't want public discussion of facts that are going to help the police officers. Make no mistake about it. Ms. Mosby is not a neutral and detached prosecutor. She is a political hack who has now made the police department the enemy. And what's fascinating to me is that during the looting that went on after she refused and the mayor said that everybody needed time to destroy things so they could feel well, the murder spree that's been going on in Baltimore is the direct result of all the drugs that were taken from the CVS stores, which are now being sold on the street, and now there are turf wars among the drug gangs. I mean, you could not make this up for a bad Hollywood movie.
Yeah, Joe, we talked about that pharmaceutical issue on Friday. It really is remarkable, this spiral of doom that Baltimore is seeing now.
And by the way, last week the Washington Post runs a lead editorial, and who did they blame? The governor, the Republican.
Larry Hogan. He's been there 5 minutes.
For what? What did he do? 50 years of Democratic rule. You read that editorial, not a word about a Democratic politician. The people at the Washington Post are on drugs.
I'll tell you what he did. He was the person who went in and solved the problem in Baltimore by sending in the National Guard.
This is what happens when a newspaper becomes so politically correct that it is afraid to criticize black politicians. That's what this is all about. It's stupid.
Joe, speaking of race issues, the federal judges in Virginia just struck down the redistricting plan that they had there. And what's interesting is they said that, these were drawn in such a way to pack black votes into one district so they didn't bleed into other districts, potentially affecting Republican seats. But I thought that it was okay to pack black votes into a gerrymandered district so that black voters get representation in the House of Representatives. So it's okay to pack voters in for if you're trying to get them representation, but not if you're trying to. That's what I'm not unclear on.
Well, this is the Fourth Circuit down in Richmond, and I think they're absolutely wrong. Let's remember where the black districts come from.
Yeah.
They are the creation of the National Democratic Party.
Yeah.
This was their idea so that there would be black districts in the United States. It was the purpose of this to make sure that there were black representatives. Now the court in Richmond is saying, well, that may have been a noble effort, but in fact, we really have to have racially diverse districts. I have no problem with that. But make no mistake about it. The issue, these districts have survived constitutional scrutiny for 30 years. Now all of a sudden they're bad?
Well, it's because they think Republicans are benefiting from it. Listen, if they want to take out race basis, race census data from how they do the districting, I'm all for it. I think it's ridiculous to carve out a district based on race.
I have no problem with it, but let's remember how this got started.
Exactly.
This is another great reform by the Democrats, just like electoral reform and campaign finance reform.
So, former Speaker of the House, Denny Hastert, is now scheduled to appear in federal court this week, maybe tomorrow, I think is the plan. This is a very interesting and very sad case. A lot of people are shaking their heads in amazement and had no clue that there was anything like this in Denny Hastert's background. Your thoughts on this particular case?
Well, here's what I think about this. I think this case represents federal prosecution gone crazy. Who is the extortionist? How much money did the extortionist get? Why isn't the extortionist charged? Whatever Denny Hastert may have done 40 or 50 years ago while he was a high school wrestling coach is, of course, important to the victims. But I want to know who the victims are, and I want to know who the extortionist is, and I want to know, and I want to hear from federal prosecutors why the extortionist is not being prosecuted. If you want to prosecute Denny Hastert for money laundering, which is exactly what they're doing, then you have a duty to prosecute the extortionist. But for the extortionist, there is no case. And to suggest somehow that this victim is not worthy of prosecution, I haven't heard the federal prosecutors explain it yet. I'm waiting. This is a bad case. This is a case that never would have occurred if he were not a former Speaker of the House.
Is it illegal to pay someone hush money?
It is not if it's done between lawyers and there's a civil settlement.
Yeah, you made that case last week. I remember we talked about it.
You can have a civil settlement. Everybody can agree to shut up, and that's the way it is. But that didn't happen here because Denny Hastert didn't get legal advice. He took his own advice, which was a big mistake.
Always
that
a bad
said,
mistake.
The problem here is this is a bad prosecution, and we need to know more about it.
Joe DiGenova, real fast, I wanted to touch on the voting thing because it just occurred to me. Hillary Clinton, pandering to black votes in Texas, said that Americans should all have automatic voter registration as soon as they turn 18. Do you see, as a legal person, do you see anything potentially problematic about that plan?
Well, automatic voter registration, let's see, you're born, you're registered.
Yeah.
It seems to be that since voting is such an important part of our electoral process, in other words, voting is the way we run our country. It's part of the Constitution. It seems to me that there ought to be some requisite for voluntary agreement. Let's see, you're forcibly registered to vote. It sounds like the old Soviet Union, because let me tell you what's coming next. It's you have to vote is what the Democrats want next. You have to vote.
Mandatory voting.
Yeah.
That'll be next, just like the old Soviet Union.
Yeah.
These guys are something. If the government isn't doing something every day of the week to make your life miserable, they're not happy.
They're not doing their job. That's
well
right.
said, Joe.
All right, Joe DiGenova, thank you so much.
That could sort of be the motto for Mornings on the Mall, actually.
Yes,
we
let's
might
do it.
steal that. All right. Thanks, Joe DiGenova.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.